Welcome to the European Parliament here in Brussels. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome some of my constituents from the West Midlands who are gathered here today here in Kashmir Week, which I proudly sponsor, and the events here today to highlight the issue in Kashmir and Jammu. On my right, I have the pleasure of introducing Raina Nazir from the British Kashmiri Women's Council. On my right, Mr. Mohammed Solomon, who is a leading community worker in Birmingham in the West Midlands, and Mr. Shazid Iqbal, who is the British Kashmir from the British Kashmir Foundation in the United Kingdom. Welcome all here to Brussels. As you know, I've been involved with this, highlighting since I've been elected the issue in Kashmir and Jammu. It's an issue that's been going on now for those who don't know the issue, for 65 years. It obviously came about after when Britain the United Kingdom gave the independence to India, and then obviously the formation of Pakistan, and then there was this issue of Kashmir. There was United Nations resolutions at the time, and it was thought that there would be a referendum for the people of Kashmir on self-determination. And I think that's why I was involved in this very much so, because everyone knows my Euroscepticism and my campaign for a referendum for the UK to have their say whether their future within the European Union. But this has been 65 years in the waiting for the people of Kashmir to have their say, and that's why I've become involved in this, and I've been very impressed with the passion of my constituents on this issue, and that's why I feel very strongly that I should support you in this. Can I come to you first of all, Raina, and tell me what your feelings about it and what you think I should be doing and what we can do to raise this issue?
Well, firstly, I'd like to say why I actually founded the British Kashmiri Women's Council. My father, who like his father, and my great uncles and many others have spent their youth in the struggle for the justice for Kashmir, and they've tried to fight this calculated, ruthless attack on the innocent in the name of independence, independence, and that's unfortunately become the ultimate negation of the human rights of the people of Kashmir. And no words can bring solace to the suffering of the Kashmiri people. And what I thought was, when you see the women that suffer, half widows, you get children, women getting raped, there's girls who get raped in front of their parents, their fathers, and the thing that happens. So what I thought was least we can do is at least try and involve more women and the youth to try and educate and raise this awareness. Mm-hmm. And what we've been trying to do is fighting and urging the British government, United Nations in particular, to use all the moral, economic and diplomatic influence in order to stop this ongoing genocide. Ill treatment of people, human rights abuses, of precious lives of men, women and children who are innocent in this. And we're just trying to urge a speedy withdrawal of the Indian occupation forces from the territory, and to bring back basically humanity, equality, peace, justice, the people's dignity, and to rethink a strategy and review it through reconciliation, a path of dialogue, a peaceful way.
Yeah.
So,
do you feel the same frustration that I do? It's almost like it's like the politics of convenience.
Yes.
It's because India is such a powerful economic power, and of course you have the United States who wish to be very friendly with India, you have the UK,
exactly,
and obviously the European Union. You can understand why all these entities wish to be very friendly with India.
Yeah.
But you really should be strong with your friends. You should actually say to your friends, actually, you were wrong on this. And for you not to see this as an issue, you're wrong, this is an issue. Yeah. And we, the international community, think this is an issue, and so should you.
Exactly.
And that's a frustration.
I recently got an article published in the Government Gazette, which was, talking about peaceful talks, because we don't want enemies with India or, or Pakistan. We want to bring, the human rights. It's like, why shouldn't they have justice? Why are they different? Why, as anybody else? And it really does frustrate me, and it really hurts, because I see my, father who struggled, my grandfather, and when you see these abuses, it's very. I do get emotional. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely.
But it's very important that we as women, we need to bring more women together to actually enforce this. And yes,
Mohammed, you gave me a letter this morning from Saeed Ali Giani, who I invited here today to take part in the events today. Unfortunately, the Indian government refused him a pass to leave. I mean, that's just endemic of the Indian position on this, isn't it? And something what we need to move forward to.
Well, can I just first of all, thank you on behalf of over 300,000 Kashmiris who are living in West Midlands, taking this issue up in European Parliament and having this Kashmir week here. I believe that Kashmiri all over the world believe Britain has a historical responsibility toward the issue of Kashmir. And we successfully, over 50 years, 500,000 Kashmiris living in Britain who are British, been raising this issue with the British government. And we also believe that Britain, being a major partner in Europe, has an active role to play, because Europe is an important institution which plays in the world affair. So I think this event today is an important event, and I hope that it develops into something. And of course, the Kashmiri suffering carries on since 47, and Sayyid Ali Gilani is a classic example where a man is over 80, is under house arrest, he is ill, he needs medical treatments. So the Indian authorities don't let him leave. He wanted to come here and tell the people of Europe what is going on in Kashmir, actually what the 600,000 Indian army is doing to the women, the children and the elderly people. Every day they get arrested, every day they are put behind bars, every day they are being killed, and no action has been taken against any Indian soldier, because they have immunity from the prosecution. And this has been given by the largest democracy in the world. So it's a shame, on India, the way it shows the world that they are democratic, yet the principle of democracy is that each individual has the right in a state by the law given. So this is why I think it's an important issue of Sayyid Ali Gilani, and not only Sayyid Ali Gilani, but other Kashmiri leaders as well who are under house arrest. Thousands of people are in jail. And how sickening is this, that over, the Amnesty International human rights organization, appointed 500 Indian soldiers who have committed atrocities against the Kashmiri people for the last 30 years. None of them has been prosecuted. So what sort of law do we have in India? What sort of democracy we have in India? And this is, I think, we have to expose to the world that this, lies that India tells the world that we are the largest democracy. Democracy means rights. People of Kashmir, 13 million of them, they have their rights, right of self-determination. The land belongs to them. Now in Kashmir, historically never been part of India. If anybody can show me any documents, if you go back into history, even 5,000 years, Kashmir has independent existence. So, Kashmir belongs to the Kashmiri people and not to India.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, this raised, we've just seen at this table the amount of passion. But how can we turn this into actual action? Obviously, I'm a politician, I'm here, and we're raising the issue, that's one step. But how do we move that forward?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for my brief introduction. My name is Shahzad Iqbal. I'm the president of All Parties International Kashmir Coordinating Committee, which has been active for the last 25 years. It's an organization where we have 20 member organizations, including many religious and political and community organizations within this organization. So something which I feel is very important for me to introduce. I would also personally like to thank you for organizing this event for us for this Kashmir Week. And of course, it's got to be mentioned, the hard work, your efforts for many years, for the last previous years working on the Kashmir issue. I think we should pay you respects for organizing this event, and hopefully in the future we hope that we can continue working with you alongside the issue of Kashmir. I'm going to come back to your point, but very briefly, I have just come back from Pakistan. My organization, including myself, were invited officially by the Prime Minister of Azad Kashmir, Chaudhry Abdul Majid. It was an official 1-month tour, and the whole purpose of that tour was to make sure that we can sit down with the Kashmiri community leaders, with the Kashmiri ex-Prime Ministers, and obviously the Prime Minister of Pakistan to make sure that we can resolve this issue. And I can very proudly say this, that I have spoken to the Prime Minister, I have spoken to the President of Azad Kashmir, Kashmir, and I have spoken to all the opposition leaders in Azad Kashmir, including the religious leaders, and I can very clearly state this, which has been recorded, that every single ex-Prime Minister, every single community leader in Azad Kashmir has given me the confidence and stated very clearly that when it comes to the Kashmir issue, we will be working on one platform. I think that's a great achievement, not just for myself, not just for my organization, but I believe it's a great achievement for the whole international community, where from our grassroots, from our homeland, we have come to agreement with all political leaders stating that this is the first step we're going to take forward, and we are agreeing to work. I know in politics we all have our differences, but when it comes to the Kashmir issue, we'll be working as one. So this is something, a message from Pakistan, from Azad Kashmir to yourself, and of course to the European Parliament, and of course to the international community, that we are one and we're working on a one-point agenda when it comes to the human rights violation and self-determination of Kashmir. So coming back to your point, what can we do in the future? I think it's a subject which needs to be looked at very carefully, and it needs to be resolved as a matter of table talking rather than violence. As my colleague Rihanna said, we are here to make sure that we can promote this issue in a very sensible way without any violence. There is not, we in any way for 1 second, we don't want the international community or the Indian government or anybody else thinking for a split second that we have any personal grudges or hatred for India. There is
Absolutely.
we as citizens of Pakistan, of Great Britain. I'm a British myself. I was born here in Great Britain, and obviously my grandparents, my fathers, they're from Azad Kashmir, from Pakistan. For 1 second, we want to put this message out to India that we want to live with peace. We're neighbours. We do not want to get involved with any nuclear weapons and any other action. All we want is what the Kashmiri people want. That's all we want. And their rights and their demands are very simple. The human rights violation needs to be stopped in the first instance. As I said, we don't want to mention what has already been said by my two colleagues, but over 100,000 people on daily basis, our sisters and mothers are being raped. On daily basis, we're having buildings destroyed. On daily basis, we're having our brothers, our fathers, standing in front of their families, and they are being shot on daily basis. So where are the human rights for these innocent people? When human rights comes for many other countries, either they sort it out very rapidly, very quickly, but this matter has been going on for over 65 years, and I think time has now changed. And let me also make this very clear, that previous generation, they have taken time and they have taken 65 years to work this matter out, but still there has been no resolution. The danger we have now is the young generation which is growing in Kashmir. That is what the danger is, and I think the international community should understand this very clearly, that if, God forbid, which we condemn very strongly, but if, God forbid, these young generation, these young children who have seen their fathers and mothers being brutally raped and murdered, if they take this matter into their own hands, the danger is both countries are nuclear power, and things can get from worse to even worse, to be very precise with you. So I think what you are personally doing, I pay you much of my respects. I pay you respects of my organization, and on behalf of myself, of the president of the organization, and I think you're doing an extremely great job, and we will support you in the future, and I hope, in the hope of that one day that we can come to some sort of conclusion of sorting out this issue in Kashmir.
Yeah, I certainly echo those sentiments about having to work together. I mean, I'm a member here in the European Parliament, a parliament I don't agree with, an institution I don't really agree with. I sit on the Human Rights Committee, as you know, and I leave my Euroscepticism at the door there. because we're talking about, I have the right to be very critical of my government and very critical in the UK. If I had lived in some other country in the world, I'd probably be in prison or whatever. So I pay tribute and think how lucky I am. And that's why in that committee, I think what's the best for my constituent, what's the best can I actively do? Because, when certain things is a matter of life and death,
Correct.
yeah. There are greater things, and I call upon everyone to put their political differences aside. We need to work together, and I just thank you once again. Today so far, I thought I'd heard everything, and I've learnt more today. And thank you once again for coming. Just one more point.
Just briefly, I think as far as European Parliament is concerned, three things are very vital if we want to resolve this issue. One, there is a dialogue going on between India and Pakistan, and this has been going on for 3-4 years.
Yes.
Unfortunately, each time India is not prepared to let the Kashmiris sit around the table. So I think that should be a demand of our campaign, that Kashmiri representatives must be there in the dialogue.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a very important
For
issue.
meaningful dialogue, you must have Kashmiri
Because if you are deciding
participation.
future of 13 million people, how come their representatives are not sitting around the table?
Exactly.
They are not sheep and goat that you divide them. They're people. They have conscience and they can speak for themselves.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Secondly, all those people who are in Indian jails, they should be released because they haven't committed no crime.
Absolutely.
They haven't done nothing, and they are just rotting in jails. And this is a human right abuse that goes to certain. And thirdly, I think the most important thing is that all those Indian soldiers who have committed atrocities against the Kashmiri people, they should be tried in International Court of Justice because we seek justice. Why would over 100,000 Kashmiri men, women and children will be slaughtered by Indian army when we have done nothing to India?
Sure.
So India is is part of humanity, and it should be accountable, and that accountability should be there, and this should be part of our campaign.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, did you want?
Very briefly, and I couldn't less agree with Khwai Saab that all we're doing is putting constant pressure on to make sure that we can resolve this as a dialogue. And let me also make this point very clear that we have a right to vote in the European Parliament, and we have a right to vote in the government. We have mentioned the government a couple of times in our discussion, and I think whichever government's in power, regardless of whichever party they belong to, I think it's a duty upon the government, and it's a duty upon us as electorates. If we are voting, that is our right here in the United Kingdom, and of course here in the European Parliament as well. And I think more pressure needs to be put on our parliamentarians and our member of European Parliaments to make sure that they can take this message forward on behalf of all the Kashmiri community, whether it's locally, nationally, or at the international level. Thank you very much, Sinclair.
Well, time's been us, and I can just assure you I'm so happy to be working with you, and look forward to working with you more in the future until we resolve this issue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.